Welcome back, everybody. This is Steve KM9G, and we are still building the QCX Mini. I've got mine for the 20-meter version. This part is definitely not radio band mode frequency, you know what I mean. It's not specific to that. This is how you do all of the alignment on the receiver to get the most performance out of the audio chain and the filtering and the rejection of unwanted signals and all that kind of jazz. It's very easy, but it's also very fiddly. So stick around and check out how I get it done. And while you're here, right down below the video, there's a bunch of buttons: subscribe, like, comment, join, all kinds of fancy YouTube stuff, and ways to support the channel, and links to this fine kit and all that other kind of awesome stuff. So I would really appreciate it if you check that out and maybe touched a couple of them. You know, get a little interactive. See you after the break.
This video is sponsored by the fine folks over at PCBWay. Check out this project in their shared projects library. This is an automatic antenna tuner with 5 relays and 5 toroids. Looks like it's got an Arduino on it and a display screen on the output. Should be a fairly easy project to build. I think we should put this one in our cart and build it. What do you think?
Okay, next up is the final assembly, putting all of this stuff together. So we will put this control board back in place, and it still fits over top of that capacitor, which is great. Put that screw in place, and then next up is to install this board over top of that board. And there is a header connector right there. Oh, that's a tight fit. Let's loosen this screw up and loosen this screw up so that this can move around a little bit. Try again. Well, it's going to be really hard to get that to fit in there when it doesn't fit in there even when it's not attached. So what we need to do is sand it down a little bit. So first we will sand down the obvious parts. That's better already. Beautiful. Let's try that. Oh man, it's like it was almost supposed to be that way. Okay, and it's supposed to sit a little proud, and it does, so I'm a little proud. Put this screw back in. Okay, and that is it for the physical construction. Next up is the alignment. Well, I guess technically we still have to put the case on. But next up after this is the alignment. That screw for the heatsink may be coming in contact with the circuit board. If so, we can cut that screw down. No big deal there. Cross that bridge when we get to it. Otherwise, there you have it. Okay, as we last saw, we are at the point where we have finished the kit assembly and it is time for alignment. And I wanted to remind everybody, don't panic. because this is the point where in the kit you turn it on for the first time and find out that it doesn't work because some reason, who knows what reason. But that's what you find out. So what we need to move forward from this stage right here is a power supply. So I have my benchtop power supply with my Anderson power pole at the ready. We need a power cable, and I have an Anderson power pole, ooh, yuck. Anderson power pole connector on one end and a barrel jack on the other end, and this needs to be center positive, somewhere between 7 and 14 volts. So let's turn on our trusty voltmeter and let's stick the center positive in the center, and let's touch the outside. And what do we get? Oh, we get nothing because we didn't plug in the power poles. Let's plug in power poles. Okay, center positive, negative outside, 13.65 volts from my bench power supply. Excellent. So that is ready to roll. And we're going to need some type of headphones. This is just a cheap generic Skull Candy headset because this does not put out a whole lot of volume and I want to be able to hear it. We are going to need a dummy load to transmit into, and this is a surface mount soldering project kit from, where is it? NorCal SMT dummy load kit. And basically it's a whole bunch of resistors soldered on to the board with a BNC connector. And of course I have two male BNC connectors. No, these are two female BNC connectors because that works out that way. And some coax because I do not have a short jumper. So let's get that plugged in. Okay, so now we can get that out of the way. We're going to just assume that that's plugged in properly, and we're going to need a CW paddle, and this is my ham key out of St. Louis, Missouri, and I got this from a Silent Key estate, and this is fantastic. It is both a straight key when you hook it up as a straight key and also a paddle, and I use it as a paddle. And this is kind of as dusty as it got to me, and I didn't bother to do a whole heck of a lot with it, and we are good to go on that front. And it needs a TRS jack on it, which it already has. So good to go, good to go, good to go. Alright, so next up, let's get the headphones plugged in and the paddle plugged in and the power plugged in and turn it on. Okay, paddle plugs in upper left. Earphones plug in. Where's my plug? Earphones plug in lower left. Cat control and PTT. We're not going to need either of those two. So it looks like we are ready to let the smoke out. So this will be my first time plugging this in. So you get to see what that looks like. Where is the other end of that? It's right there. Let's plug that in. And then this goes in there. Ooh. 5-watt CW transceiver, select band, 160 meters. It said a bunch of other stuff. Let's turn the power off. It's not powerful enough to discharge it. There it goes. Turn on. Alright. 1.07a QRP Labs, and it switches out too fast. Alright, select band 160 meters. So we are right at the first prompt. Let's see what step 1 is. Okay, a quick note is that you can remove the controls board without turning the radio on and off because of the design of the system. So if you need to make some adjustments to the controls, you can pull that controls board off and put it back on at any time. Not a problem. However, that means there will be no audio output. In addition to being able to remove the controls board, you can also remove the display board and the radio will work just fine. However, you won't be able to see anything on the screen. So, what we have just discussed is you can pull off the controls board and still see what's going on the screen if you need to access something underneath the controls board, or you can pull the screen off and put the controls board back on. I guess that's why they're two different pieces, and then you'll be able to see some action. Okay, so I think the first thing that we should do is adjust the display so that it can be seen on the camera, and I zoomed in a bit so that we're looking right at it. All right, that looks visible. And now we've got all the controls in frame and everything that we need. Turn the rotary encoder knob for the band that we have picked, which in my case is 20 meters. And we push it, and he says make sure you're not using an antenna, but you're using a dummy load. First, adjust the Bandpass trimmer capacitor C1. To do this, give one long press to the select button, which is the left one. So we long press, preset. Turn the rotary encoder until you see the alignment menu. 8. Press the select button. He says, for example, for 17-meter operation, the alignment frequency menu item should already be set to a frequency in the CW section of 17 meters as follows. And this is set to 14020, which is in the CW section of 20 meters. That's good. Turn the rotary encoder until you see peak BPF. And actually, we just passed reference frequency. Hold on one second, because that was important. I am using the TCXO module option, so I need to change the reference frequency to 25,000. 25 million. So what I am doing is I am pushing the select button to select that I want to make the change, and then I'm turning the encoder knob until it makes the change and pushing the select to get through the rest of the units, and then we're back out. Let's get back to what we were in the middle of. 8.7 is what we're looking for. Peak BPF, press select. Oh, I can hear something on the speaker. I don't know if you guys could hear that or not. Do as it says, but if you have earphones plugged in, take them out of your ears first. The tone will be very loud. Press the select button to switch on the signal generator so you can adjust the C1 trimmer potentiometer. Now if you have earphones plugged in and lying hopefully on your bench, you will hear a loud tone, 700 Hertz. The display will look like this, which it does. Adjust the C1 trimmer capacitor. Should change the size of the amplitude bar. You need to adjust it for maximum amplitude. There will be 2 peaks per rotation since the capacitor has no stops. Either peak is fine. Visual inspection will show clearly whether or not the trimmer capacitor is at the end of its range. Okay, and the trimmer capacitor is hidden. Where is it hidden in this beast? It is directly below the controls board. After fiddling with it a little bit, what I found out is that he was absolutely correct. This bar graph here is very sensitive, and what you need to do is get your trusty screwdriver and connect it in there, and what you'll see is it will move up and down a little bit. So if I go counterclockwise, I'm moving it down the range, and if I go clockwise, I'm moving it up the range, and it's almost one more tall bar. But there we go. I can't get it to stay quite on one more tall bar, and that's okay. Next up is to get in there and look and make sure that the solder blob is not pointing towards the third leg of the trimmer capacitor, because that would mean that the plates are completely closed. So let's take a look. And I am fairly close, but not all the way. So let's see what happens if we move it away. Okay, so now the solder blob is pointing up and the third, you can't even see that. So now the solder blob is pointing up and the third leg is over that way. So we are not completely closed like that. So we're like that. I think that's okay. And you can see that my meter didn't move all that much. Okay folks, so I had a little bit of camera trouble and I lost all of the footage that goes with this part of the alignment. This is the adjustment of the IQ balance. So it should be between 5 and 10, and I'm adjusting the volume control. There we go. And now we're down and we want to go somewhere in the 9 range, and that looks pretty close to 9 to me. The IQ trimmer is potentiometer The IQ trimmer potentiometer is R27. I am grabbing a small screwdriver to be able to get in there and mess with these guys. But what we're talking about is these three trimmer potentiometers right here that we're going to be working with. It is a multi-turn trimmer potentiometer, so it may need to be turned quite a few times to get to the optimum value. For this adjustment, you are looking for minimum amplitude, not maximum like we just did with the BPF. Okay, what we want to do is we want to take the IQ trimmer, which is this first one here, and we want to turn it so that this displayed bar is smaller. And you can see it's shrinking down, and you want to go as small as you possibly can, and what's going to happen we go. All right, I'm right down under the beginning of the Q, under the first line in the Q. Oh, there it is. So I can go almost down to the first line in the hyphen. So let's go back around and get that again. Yep, almost down to the first line of the hyphen. And now we're growing back up again. Let's go the other direction. And right there looks good to me. So we are perfect on that front. Okay, now we're done with the IQ balance. The next up is the adjustment of the 90 degrees audio phase shift. So we're going to turn the rodeo encoder one more time. Phase low. This automatically sets the unwanted sideband audio signal to appear at 600 Hertz and adjust the low audio phase shift. And we're going to adjust again for minimum signal. So it's IQ, low, and high. Let's get in and work on low. And we're going to try and lower this down. I am at the end of the E, so I'm going to turn counterclockwise. And this one's going down pretty quick. And then it's going back up again. So we got down to the A. Let's keep going. All right, so we're at the end of the A. That looks pretty good. And what we need to do is the high shift. So we're going to turn it one more time, and we're at 8. And again, we're looking for minimum. So let's get in here with the high, and we're at the beginning of the E. All right, bottomed out against the board. Beginning of the E. Let's try that again. And we're going up. Let's go back down. Up down to the S. And it's getting kind of hard to see because it's right at my finger. Nope. I think that's going to be fairly close. Down to the H. Down to the P. Oh, and there it went. So I need to go until we get down to P. All right, and now we are down to P, and that is the adjustment. All right, that was not so bad at all. People driving by while I'm making videos. Unacceptable. That was not bad at all doing the alignment. I thought it would be a little more difficult, a little more fiddly, but actually what happens is the adjuster capacitor and the adjuster resistors are set up, and you can kind of speed on by, or you can go in very teeny tiny little precise increments. And so what you need to do is kind of speed on down to where you think you should be and then go really, really slow on the adjustments in order to get it dialed in. And as you saw a couple of times, on the meter you've got that bar graph that goes across underneath, and then I was using the words on the menu item as kind of like my indicator as to where I was, and then there's that number over on the side. The way that this is set up is that number is kind of a multiplier, divider, math type of functionality. So when it says 9 and you go all the way down past the lowest point and then it switches to 8, you haven't really done anything except for adjust the scale. And he goes into this in detail in the manual. You've adjusted the scale of the display so you can go back up again and find that 8 again and then go back down to the minimum, and you might hit 7 or whatever. But get a feel for it. You can't really do it wrong. You just have to do it over and over again until you do it right. And as they say, keep on sucking until you succeed, and you'll make it happen. And then there it is. Be sure to ring the bell so you know when the next video in this series comes out, because I think the next thing up is actually putting the case together, and there's a little bit of trickery on that, but we will get it done and I will show you how. So ring that bell and then you will see the video come out. I'm dropping these once a week. There is a playlist up above over there that will show you all of the previous episodes in the series. And thanks for being awesome.